All right, welcome to the Big Gun Keeper League preview show for Week 13. This is a huge week for the Big Gun Keeper League, and we're going to talk about all the big matchups. So let's get after it.
All right, first one we're going to look at is the Tuscaloosa Vols coming in at 9-3, Kamikaze Dynasty coming in at 6-6. And for all intents and purposes, the Vols have clinched a bye, barring some sort of monumental performance where he puts up 100 and some other team puts up about 400. The Vols are going to have a bye. So this is kind of a little bit of a rest week for him. You can see him sipping his water, taking it easy over here. The Dynasty, however, although they are in a good spot for a playoff spot, can wrap that up with a victory. For the Vols, Drew Brees is versus the Redskins' top-rated pass defense. Colts versus Titans is a big game for you. Chris Johnson versus the Colts, Joseph Adai versus the Titans, 15th and 7th ranked rush defenses respectively. Sed Benson versus the Lions, 19th ranked rush defense. It's also important for you moving on beyond this game is, can Sed Benson establish himself as the number one? Or will Larry Johnson kind of fall into that role? We don't know. Maybe a few cracks are starting to show with the Vols, with this team right now. So it's a big week for him, although the outcome is not that important. Dynasty, barring a monumental collapse from the Dynasty, and yes, I am trying to jinx him, this game is just a warm-up for next week's playoff game. He's got Matt Hasselbeck versus the Niners. Should be a good game. Niners only have the 29th ranked pass defense. Pierre Thomas versus the Redskins, 25th ranked rush defense. Plus, Mike Bell's hurt. Reggie Bush is hurt. Pierre Thomas should see a lot of carries this week. Frank Gore going against a mediocre Seahawks defense. Kevin Smith may struggle a little bit. The Bengals rush defense is playing very well this year. But you know what? I'm going to defy the Yahoo predictions, though, and pick the Dynasty to take you down. I'm a little worried about Sed Benson.
I am.
And, honestly, all jinxes aside, I like the Dynasty's team as he starts to move into the playoffs, though.
Yes, if you can see, we tried to put the standings down here, and I'll just be honest, I don't know if you can see them yet. I'll be able to tell later whenever we put this online. But I hope that you can see, out of the 6 teams that are currently in playoff spots, the Dynasty is the lowest scoring of those, but everybody that's in the top 6 has a pretty good bit of points to show for themselves.
And his team and his players seem to be coming along at the right time.
I agree.
What you got, Brad?
The thing is, you called it, by the way, earlier. He did call Cedric Benson not being able to be trusted, and I tried to call him out. Cedric Benson had a very good game that week, but in the long run, it looks like he might be right. So let's hope he's not. My first game of the week is Juan Pade, who has turned out to be one of the best teams in the league, against T-Town Terror. Now, interestingly, if T-Town Terror can win, if I beat the Dynasty and T-Town Terror beats the Dynasty by something like 45 to 50 points, somewhere in there.
53, but who's counting?
53, but who's counting? Then the T-Town Terror would qualify for that 6th and final playoff
So you're
spot.
saying there's a shot?
I'm saying there's a shot. It's
what I want.
Slim and none, and leaning towards none, but hey, I'm not all the way to none.
That's exactly right.
However, I will say, in the end, I'm going to go ahead and make my prediction pretty quick here. I'm going to take Juan Pade over T-Town Terror simply because I look at the matchups. Now, I do like Carson Palmer against Detroit. I do like Matt Forte against St. Louis, although Matt Forte has had a very under par year. Or subpar, I should say, not under par. That would be good. Well, let's not get into Tiger Woods here. And then LaDainian Thompson at Cleveland's a very good matchup. However, I don't really like the Calvin Johnson at Cincinnati matchup. Calvin Johnson battling some injuries. Cincinnati's pretty good defensively. And on the other hand, Chad Ochocinco versus Detroit's a pretty good matchup, and you have Peyton Manning against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's playing a lot better lately, and I'm glad. But they're still not a very good pass defense. They're in the lower half. However, moving into the playoffs, Juan Pade looks like if he wins here, he clinches a bye. But with Steve Slayton, Rock Cartwright, and Ricky Williams, or Wiki Williams, whichever one, that's your 3 running backs. That's tough. That's not a very good. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'd take one of them to replace Cedric Benson right now. But, if I get a bye, I got 2 weeks, basically, this week and the bye week before I really need him. So, Steve Slayton, Rock Cartwright, and Ricky Williams, your top 3 running backs, that doesn't look like the best 3 you can have going into the playoffs.
No,
tough.
That's it. And right now, especially for Juan, it's really not about this week. It's about positioning himself for.
Well, that's right. And you see, Juan Payne trying to win this week. He has to win to get a bye. There are 3 teams that are right on his heels.
Right.
Actually, I guess really only 2 that can catch him, but right on his heels to get that bye. And it's really difficult or one, I guess, and I've misspoken several times, but there's only one team really that can take that bye from him, but it's very likely that can happen. The only thing I do like, just to end this, the interesting thing, both teams have really bad defensive matchups. Arizona versus Minnesota for you, and Juan, you have Baltimore at Green Bay. Baltimore's a great defense, I agree, but at Green Bay on Monday night, that's a tough call. But in the end, I still like you to win. There's a reason why you're 9-3, and you move to 10-3, and you get a bye.
We'll see. Let's hopefully your predictions hold true throughout the year.
Let's hope so.
We have another miss. Next one is going to be the Po' Boys.
Wait a minute. What the hell is that?
The Bourbon Boys.
What the hell is that smell?
You smell something?
Holy crap!
Woo! And we would like to say that, and excuse our language, this is the shitball of the 2009 Big Gun.
Anybody need some toilet paper? Jeez.
Po' Boys are at 4.
That stuff smells like
Bourbon Boys at 2-10. What this game is called is playing out the schedule. Both teams have had extremely poor seasons and can now only hope for a late run through the consolation bracket to salvage a miserable season. Bourbon Boys, Matt Ryan is still on the starting roster despite being ruled out. They still have Cadillac Williams starting at running back. Jonathan Stewart is still splitting carries, and their only hope to possibly win is Maurice Jones-Drew.
I'm glad you kept him, though. I'm glad you kept him instead of trading him.
We've heard this same spiel week after week. Be lucky to get 130 points. The Po' Boys actually have several good matchups this week. Donovan McNabb at quarterback has been doing better lately. Brandon Jacobs' possible big game may depend on the help of Ahmad Bradshaw, but they are facing the Cowboys' 21st ranked rush defense. Marion Barber may struggle a little bit against the 4th ranked defense. Chester Taylor has been a decent flex option. I'll take the Po' Boys. All right, I'll pick the Po' Boys. It doesn't really matter.
I need you to calm down, buddy. I'm too excited about that matchup.
There we go.
And our next matchup, I have the Capital Punishment versus Dim Dam Dogs. Now, Dim Dam Dogs, I have to admit, I've been slamming him all year.
Oh, yeah.
You almost got, last week, because I played Cedric Benson and he didn't play, you played Roethlisberger and he didn't play. If Roethlisberger plays, you have a really good shot to beat me. Now, Drew Brees ended up blowing up, and I ended up winning going away. But I don't mean that as a shot. I'm saying, in the end, it didn't look as close as it was.
Certainly sounded like
But I'm saying, Roethlisberger sat, and he didn't know that till late. If Roethlisberger plays, and I understand you didn't know,
right.
But if you play, even if you have any other quarterback in there besides Roethlisberger, it's a lot closer. I only put up 182, which, that was a pretty good output without Cedric Benson. But you're really close. So I'm just saying, I've slammed you all year, and I want to give you a little credit because, you weren't that bad last week. You still suck, though, and you're going to lose again. You played Capital Punishment, who is 7-4-1. By the way, I figured this out. Capital Punishment averages 25 points per game more than you throughout the season. I don't see any reason to think that that's going to be different this week. However, you have a lot of question marks, Mr. Sneed. You got Jamal Lewis, Ryan Grant against Baltimore, even though it's Monday night, still a tough matchup. Jamal Lewis against San Diego, it's Jamal Lewis. We said that before on here.
Also, Jamal Lewis is actually officially out now.
Yeah, that's correct. That's right. That's exactly right. That's
Jerome Harrison, I believe, is getting the start.
And then I do like the Steven Jackson matchup at Chicago. I think he's been your real workhorse, and I don't think you'll disagree with that. The other question mark I have is Donald Driver versus Baltimore. Donald Driver's been a great player for you all year, but Baltimore's a tough matchup. However, on the other hand, Dim Dam Dogs, you have Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin. You have the 2 wide receivers from the same team. They're both very productive, only they're usually not both productive in the same week. And it's tough to have that. I'm not trying to school you, but you're 2-9-1. I mean, sorry. In the end, though, there's a reason you're 2-9-1. You dropped to 2-10-1. And Capital Punishment, this is a huge game for you because you could bump yourself up to 3rd spot, which would put you into another bracket, which is huge. So So if you win, you got 8-4-1. You could possibly bump up to that 4 spot, or excuse me, into that 3 spot with the other matchup that we have as the game of the week. But if you bump up to the 3 spot, that could really change your playoff hole because you have a pretty good team.
Okay.